I will begin by reading the Indigenous land use statement. We acknowledge the land which we occupy today as the traditional home of the Nisenan, Maidu, and Miwok tribal nations. These sovereign people have been the caretakers of this land since time immemorial. Despite centuries of genocide and occupation, the Nisenan, Maidu, and Miwok continue as vibrant and resilient tribes and bands, both federally recognized and unrecognized. We take this opportunity to acknowledge the generations that have gone before, as well as the present-day Nisenan, Maidu, and Miwok people. I hereby call this meeting to order at 10:31 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Director Carvalho, if you could begin the roll call.
Pleasure. President Burrows.
Present.
VP Dominique Espinoza.
Present.
Director of Communications Carvalho. Present. Director of Finance Queen.
Present.
Director of Public Relations Love. Director of Public Relations Love. Director of Legislative Affairs Garcia.
Excused until 11 a.m.
Senator Ng.
Present.
Senator Nealon.
Present.
Senator Gorman.
Excused.
Legislative Analyst Velarde-Burch.
Present.
Cape Representative Mark Shepard. Cape Representative Mark Shepard. All right. So just a second to calculate this. So of the 11 members of the board, 7 are present. Quorum is met.
Thank you, Director Carvalho. All right, as a matter of consensus, if there are no objections, we will adopt today's agenda. Seeing and hearing none, today's agenda is adopted. As a matter of consensus, if there are no objections, we will approve the minutes from last week, which went out in an email, I believe, Wednesday evening. Seeing and hearing none, the minutes are approved. All right, we will now go on to Chair's message. So good morning, everyone. It's the end of week 11. Daylight savings ends, I believe, this weekend, so we'll be back in Pacific Standard Time next week. Today, we are joined by Librarian Sarah Lehmann. Yesterday, I met with student leaders from 2 other district colleges to discuss drafting a statement in support of the API community amid some of the recent anti-Asian sentiment we've been hearing about during the pandemic. There was a suggestion that boards at the colleges form ad hoc committees to hold town halls and conduct outreach at the different campuses. So I wanted to mention that today in case any of you are interested in taking the lead on that. I've been very happy to see Director of Communications Carvalho take the lead on organizing the effort to meet and collaborate with Academic Senate on student concerns regarding virtual learning. I'll be joining one of the meetings next week to see how that's going. Next Wednesday, FLC is holding a Writing for Wellness event at noon, and Sacramento City College is holding Movies for Mental Health at 2 p.m. the same day. I also wanted to mention that November is American Indian and Alaska Native Heritage Month. This morning, I learned that ARC has many items of cultural patrimony that need to be repatriated. And I understand a specialist is being hired to do that extremely important work in collaboration with tribal nations to whom those items rightfully belong. So this is something to reflect on for academic institutions, how education, whether colleges, universities, or museums, have often rationalized what amounts to cultural theft and what our shared responsibility is in righting those wrongs and returning those items. I'm hoping all of you take time as decision makers who represent a constituency of 30,000 to consider the impacts of that history and also current responsibility in addressing that. Next Thursday, we will be having a holiday. November 11th is known around the world as Armistice Day in commemoration of the ceasefire in 1918 that signaled the beginning of the end for World War I. And I say that because there was still a lot of other things that happened before World War I really ended. But here in the United States, we observe Veterans Day And so campus will be closed. And then finally, I also wanted to mention that Tuesday, November 16th is the last day to drop with a W notation on your transcript, at least for a full semester. So that's all I have for chair's message. We will now move on to advisor's message. Go ahead, Brett.
All right, y'all. How's it going? Happy Friday. It's been a grind of a week. It's been a grind of a semester. So like Stacey mentioned, there's a holiday next week and then a few more after that. So do what you got to do to stay healthy, stay fresh. Coming down to the crunch time here. So couple things, and I'll start kind of where Stacey left off about the drop date. If you do decide that you need to drop a course and that's gonna put you below 5 units, please reach out to me. Just so we can kind of discuss how that will affect your eligibility for Senate or CABE. So just give me a heads up, because oftentimes I'll get an email saying that a student is below 5 units and then I have to scramble. So just communicate with that with me. I know we're all going through a lot right now. So even if that's something you're considering, just let me know. Building into that, next semester when you're selecting your classes here in the next couple weeks, keep in mind the 5 units at ARC and a 2.0 cumulative GPA. So even if you have a rough semester, as long as your cumulative GPA is over 2.0, you're still eligible. But that's a different discussion if you're having a rough semester, and we'd have to discuss priorities, right? But just some things to keep in mind. So just some other updates real quick. Y'all are meeting with Academic Senate on the 18th, and Colton, thanks for leading that project on. Let me know after y'all meet if there's things y'all need or have questions. Also shoot me the time when y'all are gonna meet. I'll try to hop in there if I can. But I want you all to share those concerns and successes, right? Don't always harp on the negative. If there's things that are going on that you like, let them know that too. Let's see, other than that, I really don't have much. Board of Trustees is meeting Wednesday. That would be the 10th. The Student Advisory Council will meet before that at 3:30. And the big thing on that agenda will be the lobby day topics. So other than that, Mesa's having a how to land a state job workshop. So even if you're not trying to work for the state right now, a couple years, that might be something you're interested in. I will get the flyer in the chat, or at least the time and the date for those of you that are interested. I think it's next Tuesday. And that is all I have. So I wish you all a good weekend. And like I said, take care of yourselves. So thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Molly, I see your hand. Did you have a question?
I had an invitation for Brett. Next Wednesday is the meeting that we are going to kind of finalize everything for the Academic Senate. And Colton would like everything kind of congealed by then. If you can come to that meeting, Brett, we would really love to have your input.
All right. With that, we will now move on to public comment. This time is reserved for members of the public to address ASB Senate on issues not already appearing on the agenda. A limit of 2 minutes per speaker shall be observed, with a maximum of 4 minutes per topic. No discussion is allotted on public comment. The law does not permit any action to be taken or extended discussion of any items not on the agenda. The ASB Senate may briefly respond to statements made for questions posed. However, for further information, please contact the ASB Senate President for the item of discussion to be placed on a future agenda. Are there any members of the public who wish to make a comment at this time? Seeing and hearing none, we will move on to appointments and swearing in, of which there are none. So we will move on to unfinished business. 9.1 ASB Senate office hours. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to discuss item 9.1 ASB office hours.
I second it.
With the motion made and seconded, we can go straight into discussion. Director Wen, since you made the motion, it is your floor to open discussion.
I'm pretty sure last week we decided that we would be hosting Zoom office hours. And Stacey sent out a calendar in the form of a Google Sheet, I think either earlier this week or at the end of last week. And so I hope all of you have blocked out your times in there. If not, I think it's a really helpful way to be able to see when we are available for many of the students. When I went to put my time on there, I saw that there was a pretty decent spread amongst the days in the week. So it does look like we will be able to be pretty available for students throughout the week. And those are just my comments.
Thank you for that, Brianna. And I am copying the link to that sheet in the chat right now. If there's anyone who hasn't had a chance to look at that and think about blocking out the time that they're going to be available for office hours. Any other discussion on this? Does anyone want to recommend a date on which we start holding these hours?
Chair, I would like to recommend starting after the holiday, after the
Alright.
Thanksgiving holiday.
So the week of November 15th?
After the Thanksgiving holiday.
Oh, the Thanksgiving holiday. I'm sorry, I thought you meant Veterans Day next week. Okay, so if we start offering office hours after Thanksgiving, that would be the week of November 29th. And so I believe the week of finals starts on Thursday, December 9th, which is about a week and a half later.
Sure.
Recognized.
I was going to suggest we start office hours Sunday, November 14th, so we can get at least 1 month in before the semester ends.
That makes sense. Brett, I see your hand. Go ahead.
A couple things. Molly, I know you have your other commitment, so it's okay to miss an office hour as long as it's, you let folks know. So if you wanted to start the 14th, that's fine. The other thing I would ask the board is, would you like me to put that on the ARC website?
Brett, I assume you mean the schedule or?
Yeah, just, like President Burrows office hours 12 to 1, and just go down the list? Or is that something you want to just do kind of more on Instagram, Discord? I don't know how you all want to handle that.
All right, yeah, that's an excellent question. That's at the discretion of the board. The floor is open for motions or discussion.
Sure.
Recognized.
I think that would be pretty nice of you to do, Brett. Put it on a medium where anyone can see it without having to sign up for an account or anything like that, or have to create an account.
That makes sense. Not all students use Instagram as an example, and I think if you scroll a little bit, they make you log in, so that makes sense. All right, any other comments, motions?
Chair,
Recognized.
I think it would also be a good idea to try to start as early as possible. I feel like, it just seems a lot to start like in the semester almost over. Kind of seems like, oh, well, let's just wait till next semester. And also, does anyone have any idea if we're going to be available over the holiday break? Something we have to do or should do. I'm just wondering if anyone has any idea about that. Can you hear me?
Cutting out a little bit and you're a little bit quiet, but so far I've heard you say that you think we should start as soon as possible, and you were asking whether or not.
Sorry, my internet is bad. Yeah, I was asking if we should, if we're going to hold office hours over the holiday, but it just like really fun semester. That is all. Thank you.
So it looks like Brett said in the chat, the board is not required to hold office hours during winter break, spring break, or summer. Molly, I see your hand. Go ahead.
If we're not available until after Thanksgiving, how do we let folks know we're not available?
That's a good question. So for example, if it's being shared on Instagram or on the website, they could maybe add a note that when that specific officer's dates will be starting, and all others are kind of effective immediately or effective the week of whatever it may be the board decides.
In that case, I'm okay, Chair. Whenever you like to start, it's just that I have commitments on those Sundays until after the holiday.
Completely understandable. The floor is open for motions if anyone would like to move for a specific start date.
Sure.
Recognized.
I don't remember. Is it I call to vote or I move to vote?
You wanted to call the question and hold a vote right now.
Yes, for a start date.
So you would say I move to call the question.
I move to call the question starting ASB office hours on November 14th.
Is there a second?
Second.
With the motion made and seconded, there will now be a roll call vote on starting to hold office hours the week of the 14th of this month. Director Carvalho, when you're ready, please begin the roll call.
All right, give me a moment. Okay, VP Dominique Espinoza,
Yes. So yes. So we want to start. Thank you.
was that a yes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Director of Communications Carvalho, yes. Director of Finance Ween,
Yes.
Director of Public Relations Love,
Yes.
Director of Legislative Affairs not here at the moment. Senator Ng, Senator Ng,
Yes.
Senator Nealon,
No,
Senator Gorman. Oh, excuse absence. My bad. Legislative Analyst Velarde-Burch.
yes.
All right. We have 6 yeses and 1 no.
All right, with that, it sounds like the office hours will start on the 14th.
Sure.
Recognized.
If we just like followed like a kind of rule that we like hold among ourselves that like we won't do office hours on like a day where campus would be closed, not campus specifically, but like Thanksgiving break is technically only like 3 days, right? It's like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday or something. And we could just not do the office hours those days since no kids will be allowed or no students will be logged into campus regardless.
Correct. So whenever there's a holiday, you can assume that probably there will be no office hours on that day. So like if we were going to be starting next week, whoever was serving on Thursday would not.
Okay.
All right. So with that, we will now move on to new business. Is there a motion to begin the information literacy presentation by Librarian Sarah Lehmann?
I motion to the new business 10.1 information literacy presentation.
Seconded.
the motion made and seconded. I hope all of you will join me in welcoming librarian Sarah Lehmann. Thank you for being here today.
You're welcome. Sorry, I had to unmute. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here. My name is Sarah, and I'm one of the librarians at ARC. My pronouns are she, her. So today, I'm just going to take about 30 minutes to talk with you about library research and beyond library research, just kind of the concept of evaluating information in general, because obviously the library is not the only place where we find information. So we'll talk about ways to think about what makes information credible, levels of credibility, and when you might want to question the information source and kind of everything in between. And then I'll talk about like an overview of what the library has to offer in terms of our information services. And I'll show you a couple different ways to find particular types of information in the library. So first, I just wanted to start us off by asking a question, which is think about why you might need to do research. So take a few minutes, or not minutes, seconds, maybe 20 seconds or so, to think about a few reasons why you might need to do research. So this could be for school, for work, for in your just personal life. And if you feel comfortable, you can share in the chat, and then we'll so take about 20 seconds, and then we'll have a discussion. So I see in the chat, President Burrows is saying a course assignment. That's a good example. So for self-education, right? So just wanting to learn something new on your own. So for school or for your job, you might be writing a paper or giving a speech or doing a project for your job. Maybe just within your own family, you're wondering, something like, is this article that my uncle posted on Facebook, is that real? Is that credible? How do I file my taxes? Or how do I handle this specific situation? Should grandma get a reverse mortgage? Or, these kinds of questions where maybe there's something you're hearing about and you don't know a lot, so you're going to want to do some research about it. Maybe something like health information. So I have a 2-year-old daughter and she has a rash that she gets on her face. So, I've tried to research, like, what is this? Should I be concerned? Often, the best course of action is to ask your doctor. But things like, is it safe to eat green potatoes? I always kind of forget whether, is it safe to just peel it off, or, should you just throw the potatoes away? Or maybe something a little more serious, like I've been diagnosed with pre-diabetes. So what's the best way for me to stay healthy? So one thing that all of these information needs have in common is that we want to make sure the information we're relying on can be trusted, right? So if you're wondering about a serious health condition or something involving your child, of course, you want to make sure that you can trust the information that you're finding. So how do we do that? Well, hopefully it's a well-known fact that if it's on the internet, then it must be true. And we know that because George Washington said that, right? So obviously that's a joke, but it's I share that just to illustrate the point that sometimes, it's there's a lot of information out there online, and sometimes it's presented as true without anything that's there to back it up. So so today we're going to just kind of walk through some simple steps and questions you can ask to decide whether the information you're finding is trustworthy, and kind of just how to evaluate that. Major internet advocate, yes. So how do we know if a source is trustworthy? Here's some questions. Or no, not questions, sorry. Here's some things we can look for. It's backed up by facts and solid evidence. The author or the organization is a recognized authority that's known for telling the truth. You can verify the information in other sources. It's up to date. So some questions you can ask yourself based on those statements is, who wrote or created the information? When was it written or updated? What are the author's qualifications? And do they say where they got their info? And then finally, can you spot any potential biases? So maybe a reason why, the author may have an interest, a financial interest, a political interest in convincing you of something, but they're not really telling you that up front, right? I want to just kind of pause and say that for any information that we find, the author is going to have their own perspective, or it's limited, right? And it's, one source of information. There's always going to be another source of information that may add more additional context, or maybe there's additional voices that you need to take into consideration. So like no one source can give you the absolute truth on a topic. And you want to keep that in mind, that credibility, so to speak, is like a spectrum. And pieces of information that may be helpful in one context aren't helpful in others. And you just want to take into account, like, you're not trying to figure out what is absolutely true and what is absolutely false, but just trying to think about like, who wrote this? Whose voices are missing? Where are they getting their information? Are there other views? So so just kind of wanted to mention that. So let's just do kind of we'll do a little practice exercise using an infographic that I saw recently. One of my Facebook friends posted this, kind of just, posted it as if with no criticism, right? Like with no, just like, hey, here's some interesting facts about beetroot juice. So if you read through this, 18 excellent benefits of beetroot juice for skin, hair, and health. It makes some pretty wild claims about beetroot juice. So it says, so the first couple ones are like, a little innocuous. It can prevent signs of aging, maybe. Moisturizes dry skin. Okay, I don't know, do I have to apply it to my skin or what's going on there? But then it starts to get into some like claims that I'm like, wow, I feel like I would have heard about this if it were true that beetroot juice prevented cancer or prevented dementia, or controlled diabetes. Like, this is making a lot of claims about beetroot juice. So let's kind of walk through our questions about that we might ask ourselves for this source. So who wrote or created the information? So this is a really good example of like the type of, like, often you'll see online, like infographics or whatever, statements that they state a fact, but then they don't really give you any follow-up information. So who wrote or created the information? We can't really tell. All we know is this word at the bottom, style craze, which kind of, to me, that indicates that that's like the author of the source. So what is style craze? I'm not sure. So what I might do is then Google that to see, hey, what's style craze? And are they like a recognized authority on beetroot juice? So in this case, it appears to be like a health and beauty website with, things like hair care tips and makeup tutorials, things like that. So what I would say is, not a nutrition expert. When was it written or updated? That we can't tell. There's no date listed. What are the author's qualifications? We also cannot tell that. And we're just going by like what's listed here on this piece of information that we're looking at. So nothing about the author's qualifications. Do they say where they got the information? No, that's a big one, right? Like, so oftentimes if you're making a claim that drinking beetroot juice is going to prevent dementia, I would probably want to see like, okay, was there a study done, or like, what are you getting that information? And then finally, can you spot any potential biases? That's another question mark I have, because I don't really know much about style craze, and I don't know if style craze is a front for the big beet industry or what, but we can't really tell that just from looking at this. So what I would say is this is not a credible source for information about the health benefits of beetroot juice. It just doesn't, this in and of itself doesn't, it states a lot of facts without backing it up with any evidence, right? So you just want to be aware of that. Like, it's possible that like maybe some of these, maybe there were some studies that showed that like, drinking beetroot juice did have some kind of effect on hair growth. I'm not sure, but I definitely can't assume that that's true just based on this. So we would want to do some more follow-up research, right? So having gone through this whole kind of question, looking at this source together, does anyone at this point have any comments, questions, insights, thoughts to share?
Sure.
Oh, go ahead. We're in a presentation.
Oh, okay. It's interesting to see that it's not even the first time that they posted something like that, but they have multiple posts relating beet juice or beetroot juice.
Oh, really? Are you looking, like, did you Google it to see like, oh, interesting. They really have an obsession with beetroot juice, apparently. Okay, and
Apparently,
yeah,
it's God's gift to the world.
I guess so. Who knew? Well, that actually illustrates a perfect example of kind of how to do follow-up research, is that, you find this information that you're like, well, I'm not really sure about that. And then the best thing to do then is, to try to look for more information. So Googling is a really good first step. And then I'll show you later on how to use a library too. Oh yeah. I think of Dwight Schrute when I think of Beets, Bears, Beets, Battlestar Galactica. Yes.
I was going to say that it seems like these are a lot of big claims about antioxidants. And so it may be that they just, are using beetroot juice as an example of something that's full of antioxidants, a lot of plant pigments in it. And so therefore, any study that's ever been done on antioxidants, this is for you kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good hypothesis, that it's, maybe there's studies that show that antioxidants have these impacts, but like it's making it, that's these claims that, like, drinking beetroot juice will prevent dementia or cure cancer, like that's a lot. That's probably goes beyond what those studies found about antioxidants, I'm guessing. Big leaps, exactly. So let's move on to learning a little bit about how to do research using the library. So just want to share kind of some high level what you'll find at the ARC library. So we probably all know we're going to find books. We have physical books, but we also actually have probably like 3 times as many ebooks as we do print books. And those you can find through our main database, OneSearch, which I'll show you. We have sources and databases that specialize in background information. So if you've ever used Wikipedia, sometimes it's helpful to, Wikipedia is an online encyclopedia that anyone can edit. So it's really helpful and useful in many ways, because almost kind of anything you might look up, it's a high probability that you could find something about it on Wikipedia. But the downside is that since anyone can edit it, it's not really considered a scholarly source. It's because no one is going in at any given time to like verify that the information that's there is accurate, up to date, unbiased. So it can be a good place to kind of start, but you want to move on to other sources as well. And the library has some sort of equivalent databases that could kind of replace Wikipedia or be a scholarly alternative. So I'll show you that. And then we have specialized databases that support, all the different programs at ARC. One of the big types of sources that you'll find at the library that you may not be used to from just casual research is scholarly journal articles. And these are sources like you may have heard of, like the New England Journal of Medicine or the Journal Nature. There are scholarly journals in every academic discipline. So ranging from things like, Shakespeare studies to American history to political science to brain research. Every academic discipline will have these journals, and that's where people who are experts in that discipline, so professors, researchers, scientists, when they do research, like let's say they're going to study the effects of beetroot juice on hair growth, they may design a study and then conduct that study, give all the participants a glass of beetroot juice every day and measure how much their hair grows and that kind of thing. And then at the end of the study, they figure out, okay, what were the effects? And then the way that they share that information with the rest of the world that might be interested is they write up an article and try to get it published in one of these academic journals. So I gave an example that was from, kind of a science or health-based research, but there may be like a history professor maybe studying, a collection of letters written by someone in the past, or analyzing a particular work of literature, or analyzing political trends in a particular state or whatever. So the research looks different based on the discipline, but the common factor is that these journals exist where people share the results of their research, and they're very rigorously edited before, or not edited, but peer reviewed. So before things are published in a scholarly journal, they get sent out to other experts in the field to kind of weigh in and give commentary on, like, was this well designed? Does this hold up to scrutiny? Is it an important contribution? And so there's that kind of check. So it's not, you have to have a lot of high level of expertise to be able to publish in one of these. I will say that you'll find as you get deeper into any academic field that there are deep arguments in pretty much every about pretty much everything. And so just because an article is published in a journal, that also doesn't, even though it's a very high level, like a rigorous level of like a high bar to get published, still doesn't mean that that article represents like the end all be all truth for that topic, right? There may be 10 other articles that are like, well, but we found something slightly different, or, well, we have a little different approach, or, well, you missed this one thing. And so it's all like a process of building on each other's works and building our level of knowledge about whatever topic. And it's something that evolves over time, right? As more studies are done, more voices are included. You know, you can think about like in, you know, 100 years ago, or even 50 years ago, there may not have been many, you know, Black or African-American scholars in the sciences, for example, like just because there were barriers to being able to be accepted into a university, lots of racism, and there was like, there could be some voices missing from like historical research that are now starting to become more prominent in these kinds of academic debates. And so anyway, just the point that it's the, you know, an ever evolving field. Okay, that was a long-winded little explanation. Another source that we're seeing in, that we would see in the library is streaming films. So I'll show you a film database where you can watch films, kind of like an academic Netflix, where you can watch like documentaries, educational films. So, okay. So final thing that you'll find at the ARC library is librarians. There are 6 of us full-time librarians right now, and our full-time jobs are to help students find the information that you need to succeed. So we're here in lots of different ways. Even though the library is closed, we're still here and available to answer questions over chat, over email, over the phone. You can make a Zoom appointment with us. And all of those, if you see the contact us on the left of our website, all of those different methods of connecting with us are explained here. So if you pull up that chat bubble, you can talk with a librarian in real time. You can call us and someone will answer the phone. You could schedule the research appointment, all the different ways to get in touch with us. I'll pause here and see if there are any questions. Yes, Brett.
It's more, well, I'll just ask.
Yeah,
Spring, do you all have plans on opening?
Oh, yeah.
Or what does that look like?
Yeah, we're opening in spring. The building will be open in spring. We're finalizing our hours, but tentatively it's either 8 or 8:30. Like, okay, so Monday through Thursday, I think it's something like 8:30 to 6, which with the exception that I believe on Tuesdays, we're going to be open until 8. And then on Fridays will be closed, and Saturdays will be open, but only the pickup window. So, and we've gone around and around trying to balance like our staffing availability with student need. And we looked at a lot of different data points, including how many classes were offered on different days, what level of demand we've seen on different days. We determined that Fridays are extremely slow. Saturdays are actually busier for pickup. So we're going to be open on Saturdays, but closed on Fridays, and open Monday through Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Awesome.
Yeah, and I see a hand from Molly.
Would you have a study space available where groups can meet? And will you be able to reserve that space?
In the spring, since we'll be open, we have, I think, 18 study rooms. They can't be reserved though. We just don't have a mechanism to reserve them, but they're available on a first come, first served basis. Groups have priority in all those rooms. So if individuals can study in them, but then if a group comes along, the group can ask that individual person to leave. We anticipate that the library is not going to be as busy in the spring as it has been in the past. So I'm guessing and hoping that it won't be as difficult to find study space, those study rooms available.
Have you considered a reservation system?
We have, yeah. We have, and there's, I mean, there's definitely benefits and drawbacks to a reservation system. It is something that we have considered, and we've been, yeah, so it sounds like for you, Molly, that would be something that would be helpful.
Actually, that would be very helpful. I'm currently taking a class, and finding a study space is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And Open Lab is only available on Fridays. So I would perhaps suggest that you reconsider reservation system.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I will definitely bring that feedback back to the group. Brett, did you have another comment or question or no? Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so let's see if I was smart enough to make this a link. I was. Oh, look at that. Okay, so here is the library's website. I'll just show you briefly that if you're starting from the ARC website, if you open up this kind of menu thing at the top under student resources, library is the first link. So that's how you can get here. I sometimes just end up Googling ARC library. That works too. So the first thing I'll show you is our OneSearch database, in case you haven't used this before. This is the library's sort of one-stop place to find all of the information that we have, right? So it combines all of our databases together, but you can also search our databases separately. But OneSearch is a good starting point. So let's say I'm going to research race and I'm going to just start. I usually start with, don't think too much about it, but just start with the first couple words I think of about the topic. And then we can add more words as we go. I think the process is about sort of the research process. It takes time, and you sort of build a better search or better search terms as you go. So maybe you're going to read a couple things and see, oh, you know what, a term that I should add is racial profiling, or or whatever. And then you can refine your search and make it better as you go. So, okay, so I ran my search, and what I'm seeing is everything that library offers, both physical items as well as online items. If I have some preferences, like on the left, like let's say my instructor has said, you know what, you really need stuff that's published within the last 5 years, which would be understandable for this topic, because I can see that it might be something that you would want current information on. So I can just enter under publication date on the left, I'm going to enter 2016. And then that's weeded out everything that's a little older than that. So if I'm so then now what we see is, again, just still online stuff as well as stuff that's available in person. Like, for example, number 4, The Rise of Big Data Policing. This is a book that's actually available at the library. And if I wanted that book, I would just click. Okay, we'll have to sign in, do that. And then I'm going to click request and say, okay, I want to pick it up. I could pick it up at any Los Rios library, but in this case, I'm going to pick it up at ARC. I want to borrow it for the semester. And then I would say request now. And then within a day, or well, since it's Friday, maybe not till Monday, you'd get an email saying your book is ready to pick up. Here's the directions. And the library's pickup window is open, so you can actually borrow books. So that's how you would borrow a print book. But let's say, I'm going to go back to the results. Let's say you're like, well, I'm not really wanting to go in person. So I could instead over on the left say, I just want stuff that's available online. Okay, so now everything here is going to be available online, and it's a mix of sources. So here's an online book. Here's an article. Here is a video. Like a documentary. And so all these types of sources I can click on and watch or read online. So that's OneSearch. Any questions about OneSearch?
I do notice that some of the sources have a little purple icon that says peer reviewed, and then
Oh,
some
yeah.
of them do not. So what's the difference there?
Oh, good question. Yeah. So the article, when you see peer reviewed, that typically means that it is a peer-reviewed journal article, so like a scholarly journal article. And peer review is a process that's specific to scholarly journals. That's what they call it when they send out articles to other experts to be reviewed prior to being published. This video, this book it doesn't say peer reviewed because it's just not that specific peer reviewed article. It doesn't mean that it's not like edited or reviewed before it's published. It's still it's still written. It's still like a, legitimate source. It just isn't a peer reviewed journal article. So instead it's a book that has a different type of editorial process basically. And same with like the videos, a documentary doesn't go through that specific peer review process that a journal article does, but it's still like a high quality source, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. So then the next database I want to show you, I'm going to click the ARC logo at the top left to get back to the library website, and then click research databases. And I want to show you just in general the list of databases that we have. So I think there's something like 50, 55 databases that they focus on. Some are very narrow and specific, others are more general, but you can see the categories on the left where sometimes you may want to, rather than searching one search or in addition to one search, you may want to focus in on one specific database. Like for example, literature. There's this database, Literature Resource Center. All of this information will show up in one search, but sometimes like maybe the article is on page 17 of one search because there's just so much else in there. So if you know, like, okay, I need to find literary criticism for my literature class, you may want to go straight to a literature database and run your search there as well. And it's just kind of a way to maybe see the information presented just with a more like, what would you call it? It's a more like refined search, right? So you're only going to find stuff about literature as opposed to like maybe your search terms happen to pull up something about like biochemistry on accident or whatever. So, okay, but the one I wanted to show you is actually under general, and it's this one, Gale Ebooks. And this is the one I was talking about where it's like a sort of a academic version of Wikipedia. So this is Gale Ebooks. It's basically a collection of encyclopedias. A couple other types of things get in there too, but it's a whole bunch of encyclopedias that you can search online and that have really often very in-depth academic background information. So like, for example, it would kind of replace what Wikipedia does. So I'll try Toni Morrison, prominent American author. So, so what I'm finding are results from different encyclopedias. Like here's one, Black Literature Criticism. Here's one, Encyclopedia of African American History, Violence in Popular Culture, Encyclopedia of Women. So all these different sources that talk about Toni Morrison kind of from slightly different perspectives. So I'll just try the first one, Toni Morrison. And note, this was written in 2008. And I think since then, Toni Morrison has passed away, but so it doesn't have, it's written as if she's still alive because at that time she was, just to keep in mind. So scrolling down, this is going to be sort of a combination of a biography about Toni Morrison and analysis of her writing. And so this may be a source that like, if you're writing an essay and you need some information about Toni Morrison's biography, you could turn to this type of source rather than like Wikipedia or just Google. And it can just be, so oftentimes it can be reading about your topic in these encyclopedia articles, even if you don't end up citing them in your paper, just gives you a lot more knowledge and context for understanding sort of the more specific journal articles you might read, or it just gives you a lot more context for understanding the topic. With this database, it's helpful to be pretty simple with your search terms, like, so just, the name Toni Morrison, or just the kind of describing the topic in 1 or 2 words. If you start to add too many, you're searching for 5, 6, 7, 8 search terms, you may not find much. You want to sort of think about, okay, what is an encyclopedia article title about this topic going to be? And then try to search in that type of way. So any questions about, and actually let me show you too. I should have showed you in one search too, but pretty much every library database has features where it'll give you the citation for the source. And also there's a function where you can email stuff to yourself. So I'll show you the cite. You just kind of want to look for a button that says cite or citation or something like that. So if I click cite, it gives me the MLA citation for this source, or I could switch over to the APA citation, Chicago or Harvard, if any of your instructors happen to use those. But this is very nice because it gives you, even if you may need to make a couple little tweaks based on like, okay, maybe it didn't italicize something right or whatever. This gives you all the information that you can kind of copy and paste into your list of works cited and just adjust it a little bit rather than having to like, you know, look for that information and type it all yourself. So again, I just went to this button up at the top that says cite, and pretty much I can't even think of an exception that all of the library databases, there may be one, but almost all, will say, of the library databases have a feature like this where it'll give you the citation for the specific source. Okay, so at this point, any questions about Gale Ebooks?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it the full book available? Are any full books available on there, or just only selections?
Oh yeah, good question. So yeah, there's definitely full books available. Gale Ebooks is a database that happens to be a collection of encyclopedias, and so they're broken down by articles. You can actually read the entire encyclopedia, but also like, so if I go to back to the library's website, I could within one search, you will find ebooks, and you can narrow it down to specifically ebooks. Like what would be an example? Well, let's just try like I'll just try a health related topic, so heart disease. And then on the left, under resource type, can limit to books. And then if you also limit to available online, I did that quickly, but it was on the left under show only available online, then everything here is going to be an ebook. So there's 1,600 ebooks that, you know, have something to do with heart disease that you can read the whole thing online. I will say that oftentimes like novels, we can't always get as ebooks because the publishers just don't always allow libraries to purchase them. It's a little bit complicated because like public libraries do, but we don't have the same type of setup as they do. But you can always look for a book, like, and then just kind of limit to online and limit to book and see if we can find the ebook version. Does that answer your question, Dominique?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So I know that I've gone over on time a little bit, but I'll just show you very quickly. I'm back at that research databases page on the library website, and I wanted to show you at the bottom the video category. So here's where I was talking about those sort of like educational Netflix databases. So Canopy would be one. Canopy is mostly documentaries, and you can browse the videos that we have access to. You can also search for specific topics. So like, for example, this one about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you would just click play and you can watch it. I'm going to go back and show you also the other two. Swank. Swank is one where we can buy like major motion pictures, so things that you would see in a movie theater, and we buy those based on an instructor request. So if an instructor is, let's just say I'm a student. If instructors are planning to show a film, then we can buy them, and these are the ones that we have licensed. So A Passage to India, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Do the Right Thing. These are the films that we have purchased because instructors have requested them because they're going to show them in class. But you know, some of these may be films that you're just interested in watching. So that's a resource. And then the final one would be the most educational, the most like documentary focused, it would be Films on Demand. And this is one where there's a whole bunch of films in here, like thinking about things like, you know, PBS documentaries or things like that. So you can browse all different kinds of categories of documentaries here. A lot of good stuff in Films on Demand. So, oh yes, Canopy. Yes, I know Canopy is great. There's a lot that we can get in Canopy, and it's been really nice to have access to all this streaming film. Yeah. So, all right. So that was everything I was going to show you. So we talked. Oh yeah, Brett, go ahead.
So I had a question. is it Swank? Is that the name of the other video site? Is that relatively new to the library?
It is, yeah.
Because I know in the past when departments, student orgs, clubs would try to show movies, I would always have to be the bad person and say you need copyright permission.
Yeah.
And we'd have to go through, and they were expensive.
Oh, yeah. I
So
know. Okay. Yeah. So with
so if we have that, is that copyright safe so I could tell clubs or whoever?
good question. I'll look into that. I know that Canopy specifically comes with the permission to show the films in a group or whatever. With Swank, I'll have to check. I think that the general thing is that you can't charge. I'll look at it though, and I'll get back to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so Molly, you are very welcome. Did you have another question?
Just a comment, in screenwriting, I took screenwriting at Sac City as well as film studies.
Mhm.
And in both of those, we used those resources and there was no copyright issues.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and it's definitely okay to like watch them at home or show them in class. The question is sometimes, is whether you have the right to do a public performance of the film. So like, you're going to show this film in a big auditorium and invite 300 people. Sometimes the film, like, especially for like major motion pictures, they get a little iffy on whether you're allowed to do that. So that's what I'll look into on whether we have for the Swank films, whether we have permission to do that. Yeah. All right. Well, any final thoughts or comments or questions I could answer? So I just then want to wrap up by saying thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me here to talk with you. And yeah, I'll turn it back over to you, President Burrows.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was awesome information and really helpful. And we're all really glad you were here with us today.
You're welcome. Have a great weekend, everyone.
All right, so just following up on that presentation, I want to share with all of you that I know Crash Course is a popular study resource for a lot of students. They've got a couple series that are relevant to this. So there's one called Media Literacy, and there's another one called Navigating Digital Information, and those are both very helpful follow-up resources for this kind of discussion. All right, so with that, we will now move on to our next item under new business. Is there a motion?
I move to discuss 10.2.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, with the motion made and seconded, Angie, you have the floor if you'd like to start us off.
So, sorry, I wasn't here last week, so I just wanted to clarify. So we're trying to decide whether we're going to be meeting next Friday.
Exactly. So Thursday is a holiday, so we're here to discuss whether or not the following day, which a lot of students don't have class, might otherwise just be a long weekend for everyone, whether or not.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we should, but I don't know if other people would have a problem with that, just given that we're going to be like, I know we're going to be out a couple weeks after that also for the Thanksgiving holiday. I don't know if anybody feels like we have a problem with that.
That's a good point. So as far as I know, there aren't really any committees meeting right now. I don't have any specific agenda items that are really pressing, that would require a meeting, but I don't know what all of you have planned. So if somebody's working on a bill right now and they really need that passed on the 12th, that could be an exception. But otherwise, I don't see anything currently coming up on agendas that can't be tabled until the 19th.
Chair.
Recognized.
Yes, I'm okay either way holding a meeting. I just wanted to let you guys know that I will not be available as I am going to a national convention. So I will be unavailable from the 9th through the 15th of November. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you for that update. It's very helpful.
Chair,
Recognized.
do you think possibly we just hold a roll call vote?
Yeah, if no one else has any concerns or discussion, we can certainly call the question. Any other discussion or questions before someone makes a motion?
Chair.
Recognized.
I was just gonna add that I feel like if we don't have anything we really need to talk about, and it's already a day that students aren't really going to be logged into campus, it won't be super necessary. I don't think anyone will miss out, and it'll just give everyone a little break.
Right, self-care is important too, so good point on that recovery. All right, any other discussion?
Chair.
Recognized.
So to call a roll call vote, I say something like I motion to call the question or something like that.
Yeah, you can say I move to call the question on whether to hold a meeting Friday, November 12th.
I motion to call the question whether to hold a meeting November 12th, Friday, for the academic or the ARC-ASB.
I
Second.
second.
All right, with the motion made and seconded, Director Carvalho, can you begin the roll call? So a
With
yes.
pleasure.
A yes is to hold the meeting, a no is to not hold the meeting, just to clarify.
VP Dominique Espinoza,
No.
Director of Communications Carvalho. No. Director of Finance Queen,
No.
Director of Public Relations Love,
No.
Director of Legislative Affairs Garcia,
No.
Senator Ng,
No.
Senator Nealon,
No.
Senator Gorman. Oh,
Excuse
excused
me.
absence. I keep forgetting.
No worries.
Legislative Analyst Velarde-Burch,
No.
CABE Representative Mark Shepard.
No.
Looks to be we are unanimous in our decision to not host office hours, or not office hours, the ASB, ARC-ASB, November 12th, Friday.
All right, thank you for that, Director Carvalho. So that means our next meeting, excuse me, will be on the 19th. All right, so with that, we will now move on to committee reports. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe any committees met this week. All right, so we will now move on to board member reports and announcements. And Brianna, I see your hand, go ahead.
I do have something to report, but also as a question, will we be hosting office hours that day, even if we don't have the Student Senate meeting?
So it sounds like office hours will be starting the following Sunday, the 14th.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
I think probably not. Good question.
Okay. And then my only announcement is that Phi Theta Kappa is meeting tonight from 5 to 6 p.m. And I will send that information in the meeting link in the chat if anyone here is interested in attending. You don't have to be an official member yet. This general meeting is for anyone that has recently joined or is interested in joining. So if you have any interest, please attend. Thank you.
That's the Honor Society, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, Mark, go ahead.
Just give a quick update on CABE. This upcoming Tuesday, we will be hosting a meeting and appointing a director of finance. So I was wondering if the Student Senate Director of Finance would like to join us and possibly giving a tutorial on what the roles are for Director of Finance position. Also just giving a quick update. The Coalition for Undocumented Students and Allies will be officially chartered next week as a club. So kind of happy about that. Noticing on clubs end that several clubs are hosting meetings and stuff. So it looks like they're starting to slowly transition into having meetings, which is good. Also looks like we have some club reps that'll be joining as well. Still looking for a Student Senate rep for Tuesdays to kind of share what Student Senate's doing with the Clubs and Events Board. So if anybody might be interested in that role, it would be greatly appreciated. And that's about it for Clubs and Events Board.
Thank you, Mark. Sylvia, go ahead.
Hi, yes, just a quick question. I know it was late, I had a doctor's appointment, but I wanted to ask, were we able to discuss what we would be voting for November 10th when it comes to drafting resolutions and such?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I followed November 10th drafting resolutions.
Yeah, I think Brett, I think you had sent an email. I think we were gonna possibly said we possibly were gonna talk about it, what we wanted to vote on, or which issue we wanted to talk about. I think there was a few issues that were already stated.
Yeah, there were four items I believe Brett reported on, and that was on the agenda last week. And I don't know if maybe board members just didn't have time to get around to look at all of that. And I know there's also kind of a need to research legislation that's involved in that too. And so I think maybe the Board of Trustees is meeting early this month because of the holiday. I might be incorrect about that, but it seems like it came up pretty fast after we heard about that. So yeah, that was not on the agenda today, but that's something we could probably discuss now if anyone wanted to bring that up.
Okay, I was just wondering because I did attend the webinar yesterday. I couldn't stay for all of it, but they are going to send the video. So I think once I get a hold of that, I will probably email it to the group. But they were just talking about the process of resolutions and how to draft one. You know, how to use whereas, keeping it limited to four bullet points or one resolution. It gives us more of a advantage to pass if you have only one resolution, whereas if you have four, then there's a little bit more of a discussion or debate that can happen. So I was only able to stay, like I said, 30 minutes. It was really interesting though. So I know Rad Hill was gonna send an email. So once that happens, I will go ahead and send it to the group, and then hopefully that helps us a little bit because I've never drafted resolutions before. So this is all new to me.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm glad you were able to attend the webinar and to hear that that was helpful. We can also, maybe I'll send out an email. We can have a follow-up discussion on which of the items to pursue. Again, it was on the agenda last week, but I think maybe it was too soon. All right, Nathan, I see your hand. Go ahead.
I just want to let everyone know that Real STEM Coalition is going to be hosting another meeting today, sorry, and we're going to actually have our speaker, Renee Solman, who's a PhD candidate from UC Davis, and she'll be talking about her work, and it's going to be at 1:30, and I'll send the folder in the chat right now, the flyer in the chat right now if anyone's interested. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Nathan. I saw that flyer and that talk sounds pretty interesting. Angie, go ahead.
So there was a home base for the English department for publishing. There was a home base seminar this week, and it reminded me. So the American River Review is accepting open submissions. Sorry, I'm trying to get going this morning. Is accepting open submissions for anybody who wants to submit any poetry, creative nonfiction, fiction, and we are kind of wrapping up for this for our upcoming issue, but we continue to take submissions throughout the year. So we will still be reviewing those possibly for our next issue. And we are going to be having a release date, a release party for that on December 3rd. I don't have all the details for the time and Zoom link and all of that yet, but I should have that at our next meeting. And for anybody that wants to submit anything, you can just send it to AmericanRiverReview@gmail.com.
Thank you for that, Angie. I saw that they are accepting submissions from students this year, and I wanted to ask, what is the deadline?
So there is no deadline right now. We are, like I said, we are kind of wrapping up for this current issue, but we're continually taking submissions for our possible next issue. We kind of just review them until we have too many and we can't take them anymore, and then we'll close submissions. It's just kind of open right now. And if we don't end up getting it in for this issue, we'll try to get it in for next issue, if we all want to get it in there.
Excellent. That makes sense. Brett, I see your hand. Go ahead.
I just wanted to circle back to Sylvia's question about lobby day. So a couple options. You have those 4 kind of ideas that the SAC group came up with. Folks could email Stacey and Mark kind of their rankings. You want to do it that way, and CC me. You can have a discussion via email. That's fine, because we're running out of time. You're right. You're right about the holiday kind of threw off the SAC schedule. So, if any of you have strong opinions about that, just Mark will have to kind of let student trustee know on Wednesday at the SAC meeting. So all Mark is doing at that SAC meeting is reporting how ARC ranked those 4. So you don't have to write a resolution. You're not writing a bill. It's just to inform the student trustee. And then if anyone does find legislation tied around one of those 4 topics, that's what Mark would bring to that group. So, if you want to just send an email to Mark, Stacey, and you can throw me in there, and maybe even Sylvia and Angie, just because they have the legislative background. We might just have to go that route just because of time crunch. So just want to throw that out there.
Thank you, Brett. Molly, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. This question is actually about the American River Review. That Gmail address, it bounces. Could you perhaps drop the address in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right, and I did list the 4 lobby day topics for ranking in the chat, so be sure to check that out. All right, any other board member reports or announcements?
Chair,
Recognized.
I just also want to let you know that the SAC meeting is next Wednesday.
Yes.
It's coming up. So if anybody wants to send that, that'd be cool.
Awesome. Any other board member reports or announcements? All right, seeing and hearing none, we will now move on to public comment. This time is reserved for members of the public to address the ASB Senate on issues not already appearing on the agenda. A limit of 2 minutes per speaker shall be observed, with a maximum of 4 minutes per topic. No discussion is allotted on public comment. The law does not permit any action to be taken or extended discussion of any items not on the agenda. The ASB Senate may briefly respond to statements made for questions posed. However, for further information, please contact the ASB Senate President for the item of discussion to be placed on a future agenda. Are there any members of the public who wish to make a comment at this time? Seeing and hearing none, if there are no objections, this meeting will be adjourned at 11:43 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.